Welcome to Media Talks TV with your host, Tony J. I'm back again with some more news and some topics we're going to break down and discuss. You know, I wanted to come back and, take time off my job search for a little bit. And you know, wanted to post a few videos. This is going to be a two-part video, so, bear with me, you know. But I've seen some things in social media right now that have troubled me for a while. And of course, I want to address this topic with a level of sensitivity because some people might be or might get offended by what I'm about to say. And I don't take this situation lightly, but it has to deal with right now the culture, and especially black culture. Most recently, I know everybody has heard of the video of the young 19-year-old girl that was twerking on a disabled patient. And, I saw the video float up in my timeline, and I know I was really highly disgusted. All too often, we have young black girls right now coming up being attention whores. And now it just seems like it's become a pattern. And the worst thing about it is it's causing people to lose their jobs. Now, an opinion is one thing. My personal opinions, while I'm off the clock, those are my personal opinions. Now, unless I'm really directly representing a company. But my personal opinions and my ideas, I express strictly off the clock. I don't express them during my job or during when I work. But it seems like black women have had this addiction, and it's a troubling addiction to attention. And one of the things that really baffled me about that video of this nurse's aide gyrating her genitals on top of a disabled patient, I felt like it was just troubling, and everybody wants to excuse her actions as being, well, she was just expressing herself. And yet her handle says the queen of accountability. And I asked myself, what does that mean? Accountability. But it seems like black girls and black women are allergic to the idea of accountability. Now, I don't make these types of videos all the time. And this is not a channel where I degrade or denigrate any gender or race at all. But we have to address certain things within our community, certain values that have gone out the window, and certain things that we as black folks have have really allowed to get away with. Just recently, I had a discussion online with many of my former high school students, my former uh, people that I grew up, went to high school with, right? And we had a heated discussion. We had a very heated discussion about an issue evolving around black women and black girls. And of course, when we have these types of conversations, they get heated, they get personal, they get out of hand sometimes. But when somebody tells you the truth about yourself and your degenerate behavior, oftentimes I find black people want to excuse it under the guise of white supremacy, or we're not all like that, or we make generalizations. And I can understand that because, throughout history, black folks have been categorized and generalized based off of the actions of one said Negro. And sometimes when one Negro messes up, they all mess up. And there's always been that case even back then. So you automatically become a representative of a whole entire race. But reason why we make blanket statements and generalizations, of course, of degenerate behavior in our community is because it's become a part of our culture. If it wasn't a cultural problem, I wouldn't have had to say the things that I have said, you know. But there comes a time when it gets out of hand and it becomes to become representative of an entire group of people, that when people on the outside look at us as a collective, will see that one thing and say they all do it. And this is why we need to be mindful and be checking our own people when behavior gets out of hand. I don't think there is enough parenting in our community and enough guidance, because mainly because of the previous generation has allowed that to dissipate. I'm one of the last generation of black kids to grow up in a two-parent household with a mother and a father. But I also know I grew up around kids that didn't have those same value systems and grew up extremely wild and unhinged. And a lot of times we don't want to address that because everybody has a different perspective with how they were raised. But it goes back to the issue of that video, and also in the second video that I'm going to put out, I'm going to talk about DJ Academics, because I feel like Academics, he this is another problem that goes on in our community with the whole thing of grooming, and it goes right back to square one with a lot of issues. But let me break down this issue with the video, because there are several videos of them. There are several videos out there that people don't want to discuss, and that is the issue of twerking. And it's really become a part of our culture for like the longest time. So twerking has been around for like I would say 30 years, right? 35 years. So it's just become a part of our culture, the gyrating of our backsides for sexual gratification. But everybody says it's just a dance, right? But what happens when this nurse's aide, who's supposed to be helping a disabled patient, does something like twerking and gyrating her backside, her ass on a disabled patient? And why would I want somebody like that working for my place of employment? And being that she's 19 years old, you know, we give black girls tons of excuses. She was just a child. She didn't know any better. She's young. She made a mistake. But do black boys get the same exact space to make those types of mistakes? No, they don't. And if this were a man that did this, if this were a man that did this, they'd be sent to jail and they get uh sexual misconduct charges put against them and probably have to enter as a sexual predator. But because she's a girl, of course, we make excuses for that behavior. Now, I'll tie it back into my discussion on Facebook. And all too often, when we talk about these discussions, we never want to we never want to hold women accountable for anything. Because the minute you hold them accountable for anything, then they make excuses. Oh, you're denigrating black women, or you're denigrating, you hate women. They make all these jibs for honest critiques, but won't look themselves in the mirror about their actions. Now, have I talked about some of these women in the past? Yes. I've talked about some of these women. I've even dragged them on social media. But to call out the behavior, to call it out though, it's important because very often you like to play the victim. But how can you can't be a victim and victimizer at the same time? You can't be overtly sexual and then on one end be a victim the next minute. What you attract is what you get. How you're treated, you allow yourself to get treated like that. I had a friend that put up a post on Facebook saying that she knew girls from high school, the 90% of them cry in the bathroom over some guy that did them dirty. And yet, under the same guise, I'm like, okay, but what made you want to choose that guy? What made you attracted to that guy? And this is where I say self reflection is so important with black women because when you go out here and you do certain behaviors and you attract certain type of toxic people, you can't go on documentaries and go on these uh news organizations and tell that so and so happened to you 25 years ago, so and so happened to you whenever. Because when men step in to try and protect women, it often falls on deaf ears. And the problem with our community as a collective is that most African American women do not like taking correction from men. They do not respect the authority of a man's opinion. They delegitimize a man's opinion or they check them once they give an opinion. And I know I got argued down plenty of times about women's behavior, how the culture has shifted away from, being ultra conservative to hypersexual, to not embracing family and nuclear family, to now embracing single motherhood and hypersexuality. Things like Sexy Red, things like Meg The Stallion, Cardi B, all these things you're seeing in the culture being perpetrated, and yet they're in their 20s and their 30s, they're making money, but they're also influencing a big generation of kids to throw their lives away. And of course, with this girl that did what she did in this nursing home, she didn't think she was going to get caught. She didn't think that she was going to be brazen enough not to get publicly shamed for what she did. But she put it out there to the world. And now it's come back to haunt her. Because now she's locked up. And like I said, whether it be the girl on TikTok that posted a twerk video of her twerking on Alaska Airlines and she got fired, you're not supposed to do anything degenerate in your company uniform. Don't do it on the clock. Why is that hard for you not to do? That means you have too much time on your hands and you spend too much time on your phone. But nobody tells these girls this. Addicted to attention, and it's the latest drug in the world, attention. And one of the things that I've often found with this new generation is they want the attention. I remember I was in truck driving school. And in truck driving school, you're not supposed to have your phones out. And of course, this girl took her phone out and got on Instagram and started doing an Instagram live in class. And I'm like, okay, if you're out on the road, you're not supposed to take your phone out. That's a rule with truck drivers, right? She took her phone out anyway, doing TikToks and doing Instagram live because she said that was her side job. And of course, it's like, okay, with TikTok, it was like, okay. But then she turned the camera around and got the whole class And some people objected to that. Nobody wants to be in your TikToks. So put the phone away. Why is it that when we correct them and we tell them not to do this shit, they pull their fucking phones out? And that's been a habit with black girls for a long time, always pulling their phone out to try and draw attention to themselves. But of course, when you correct them, and this goes all the way back to the values of parenting, because we haven't had to deal with the issue of social media before until now. When we tell y'all not to do something and you do it anyway, it becomes disrespect. Not I'm trying to dim your light. Not I'm trying to keep you from expressing yourself. But of course, any amount of opinions or criticisms that you have about behavior, um, you can't take no correction. And this is problematic of a lot of this generation. Now, I'm a millennial, but Gen Z is a different ball game. They just do not take correction for shit. And of course, even when I was online and I was talking about this issue and bringing it back to Facebook, in my argument, once I made my case, then there comes to when you try to talk about their ill behavior on society, you got women 35 and up talking about uh gaslighting people that have an opinion of them. Oh, you need to seek therapy and heal. You need to stop generalizing. Just making those types of statements, and it's a lot of them that make those same types of statements because they want to be shielded from any type of criticism, any type of criticism that comes afloat. You know, and that self-centeredness and that narcissism that they express and espouse is going to come full circle because they're creating a cycle of degeneracy and degenerate behavior. And this girl that did what she did, she might have been a nice person, but she made a horrible decision that day and she lost her job. And I don't think she'll ever be able to get another fucking job ever again after that, after what she did. This generation is just a crash out generation. But it's the women that are leading this said generation. And they're making all this stuff, all of this degenerate behavior is affecting their ability to form healthy relationships. But they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear that part of it. But when they find out later on. They won't find out at 25. They won't find out at 35. They'll find out at 45 or 40 years old that trying to form a healthy relationship gets worse and worse as time goes on. A lot of black men, they're not putting up with the bullshit no more. That's why you see a lot of them go overseas. They don't want to. They don't want to get in arguments with women, black women, when they could catch a flight and go overseas and get them a Filipino woman instead of a black woman. They don't want to do that. A lot of black men feel this way, but they're afraid to speak on it because they don't want to get looked at as a misogynist. But those spaces exist for a reason. Because many people are getting fed up with the behaviors of African American women. And you got these older women who keep pouring fuel on the bullshit. And those older women are leading those younger women off a cliff. These so-called black feminist ideologies that are continuing to allow the degenerate behavior in our community to continue, while black men are always constantly checked for everything. They themselves remain nameless and blameless, but yet their behaviors become deplorable and they get locked up every day. But, you know, I'm going to be having more of these conversations as time. I'm not going to be filtering anything. If it gets to be problematic, I will move the videos to Rumble, if need be. You can catch me over at Rumble if it gets problematic, if the video gets too hot. But I'm tired of keeping my mouth shut about the problems that plague our community because nobody really wants to talk about them. And if we want to talk about them to the opposite sex, they want to be delusional and blame the men. And then it's become this finger pointing between us, and nothing never gets solved. And then we continue this diatribe while the world is in constant flux. But I'm Tony J. This has been another Media Talks TV video. Be sure to tune in for part 2 when we talk and discuss about DJ Academics and the problems that are plaguing black men. And I'm gonna talk about DJ Academics in the next video because I feel like we're gonna have a long discussion about that. So if you're new here and you just discovered this video, make sure you hit the like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notifications because I got another video coming up. I want to get the ball rolling again. I'm Tony J and I'm out. Peace.